Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now Anthony Joshua has explained that Dillian Whyte has seemingly lost his predator instinct, that finishing instinct that he had and was so profound early on in his career. Dillian Whyte was someone who liked to get stuck in. He was someone who wanted to fight and was someone who maybe neglected his boxing abilities early on in his career in favour of just fighting. Maybe now it has kind of switched. This is what Anthony Joshua had to say about Dillian Whyte's shock loss to Alexander Povetkin. I thought Dillian Whyte has lost his instinct. I believe if you smell or see a drop of blood, you have to take them out. If you leave it a round or two, then you just don't know. If a man gets hope and a lifeline, he might just bounce back. If I see you hurt, I'm going to blitz you. And Dillian needs to get back that mindset. The last thing you lose is your power. Povetkin is a bit shaky on the legs, but the foundation these guys have, I don't think you can ever give them an inch of hope. They will take any opportunity, and opportunity matched with power is knockouts. Certain people will now be negative towards Dillian. I believe he's a great fighter. It's a blip in his career. 5 years from now, it will just be part of the story. He will be able to look back on this and think it's a great lesson. So that is what Anthony Joshua has had to say about Dillian Whyte's loss to Alexander Povetkin. There were some kind words in there as well, obviously towards Dillian Whyte, because Dillian Whyte has just lost. So he doesn't want to kick a man while he is down. So that is classy from AJ, but he is right. It is just a blip and a bump in the road. Dillian Whyte can come back. You are always one win away from it being relevant again, especially when you win at this kind of level. So has Dillian Whyte lost that instinct that he had, that predator finishing instinct that is so vital, especially in the heavyweight division, but ultimately for a fighter like Dillian Whyte, it is very vital because Dillian Whyte is a good boxer. He is much improved from the fighter he was 5 years ago. But the thing about Dillian Whyte is he is very heavy-handed, and ultimately when he has someone hurt, he very rarely lets them off the hook. So what was different with Alexander Povetkin on this fight night? Well, Dillian Whyte seemed to be a little bit different with what he was choosing to do. He was choosing to box instead of fight, and he was outboxing Alexander Povetkin. But the thing is with Povetkin is if you get drawn into a fight with him, he seems to find a way to survive or to win. He survived against Vladimir Klitschko, and against Michael Hunter in the early stages of that fight, Hunter was extremely aggressive and badly hurt Povetkin. I thought it was going to be done. I thought that Povetkin was finished. But then we could say the same thing when he was in there with Dillian Whyte. Povetkin looks done. He's finished. After the 4th round, Dillian Whyte is going to come out in the 5th, step on it, and take him out. Didn't happen. Povetkin found a way. He always does. And Povetkin seems to be like one of those fighters who is almost more dangerous when he is hurt and having been on the canvas than he is when he's not hurt. Apart from that one fight between him and Anthony Joshua, because Povetkin, he was in the fight, he was doing well, and ultimately he did hurt Anthony Joshua a few times, but once AJ caught him, the power was too much for him. He stumbled back, and Anthony Joshua closed the show, and we haven't really seen Povetkin in that kind of state before, and we haven't seen him in that state after either. So obviously Anthony Joshua did step on Povetkin when he had him hurt. He finished him, but if you look at the reaction from Povetkin when he went down, and even before he went down, he stumbled back. And I didn't see Povetkin do that against Dillian Whyte. It was a flash knockdown. Bang, left hook, he's on the canvas. And again, bang, left hook, he's on the canvas. But ultimately, it wasn't a cluster of shots that put Povetkin down. It was like he was just walking onto a shot, he went down. And he didn't seem like he was gone. He didn't seem that badly hurt. And maybe that's where Dillian Whyte made the mistake of not stepping on him, believing that Povetkin looks okay. He looks a bit shaky, but he is still throwing punches back. So that is maybe where Dillian Whyte thought, okay, he's not ready to go yet. Maybe he was thinking back to seeing Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr. When you step on it, you rush in too quickly, lose your shape, and ultimately walk on to one big one. Maybe that is what Dillian Whyte was trying to avoid by not stepping on Alexander Povetkin, which you would have to say is a careful choice and a considered choice from Dillian Whyte, and maybe a bit out of character for him. He has done that before against Derek Chisora. He had him hurt early, but allowed him to crawl his way back into the fight. And Chisora was winning that fight on the judges' scorecards in that 11th round when he got knocked out. So Dillian Whyte has allowed a fighter off the hook before. It did work out then. This time though, it did not work out for Dillian Whyte. And there is always the question of what if? What if Dillian Whyte did step on him? Well, ultimately he didn't. And maybe it's something that Dillian Whyte can learn from. If he does not learn from it, then he will not get better. And ultimately, you win some, you lose some. I know that's no comfort in the sport of boxing when it is so devastating, just as we saw in that fight. But ultimately, it's sometimes the losses that teach you more than the fights you win. If you're an extremely intelligent and resilient fighter, those fighters learn from their wins just as much as they would a loss. Someone like, say, Floyd Mayweather, who has never lost, learned from the bad points in his wins, when he was maybe on shaky legs, maybe when he lost his shape, maybe when he got too involved, maybe when he didn't get involved enough. Ultimately, he learned from those points during a fight, even though he did win. Some fighters go through losses and learn from that, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not about the loss, it's about the comeback. And if Dillian Whyte can come back from this, he can still get a world title opportunity. A one-punch knockout does not mean the end for any fighter. If it does, then would Lennox Lewis be the legend he is? One-punch knockout against Oliver McCall. One-punch knockout against Hasim Rahman. Yet still, he came back. Those fighters weren't the best fighters in the world, but ultimately, Lennox Lewis still lost to them. But against top-level opponents, Lennox Lewis never lost at that level. Now, I'm not comparing Dillian Whyte to Lennox Lewis, not just yet, but ultimately, Dillian Whyte can still reach those levels after being knocked out by one big punch. He's been stopped before, and imagine if after that Anthony Joshua fight, he gave up. He would not be where he is now. He would not have had those big 50-50 fights at the O2 with Joseph Parker, with Oscar Rivas. So Dillian Whyte continued then. If he did not, there would be no now. And the same applies now. If Dillian Whyte does not continue, then the cup will remain half empty. So Dillian Whyte can still have a great future in the sport of boxing. One shock flash knockout does not mean the end for Dillian Whyte. He needs that predator instinct to come back again. I agree with what Anthony Joshua is saying. He needs to know when to finish. He needs to know and believe in his power and his punch and shot selection that he can get Alexander Povetkin out of there when he gets him hurt. But guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? This crazy fight camp situation, 4 weeks of mental action. Dillian Whyte has suffered an upset loss. Shannon Courtney also suffered through fight camp. No easy fights, 50-50 fights. This was bound to happen. Somewhere along the lines, there were going to be upsets, and we saw a big one between Dillian Whyte and Alexander Povetkin, but there is a rematch clause. Dillian Whyte has asked for a rematch in December. He wants to get straight back in there at the scene of the crime and beat Alexander Povetkin, get himself back on track for that world title opportunity he has waited so long for. Anyway, guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks, guys.